Not every songwriter gets to create the song that defines their artistic peak. For John Lennon, that moment arrived in early 1967 with Strawberry Fields Forever. More than just another Beatles single, it was the song where Lennon stopped writing stories and began revealing himself. It blended childhood memories, emotional vulnerability, and groundbreaking musical experimentation into a work that many still regard as one of the greatest songs ever recorded. Ironically, despite becoming one of the defining recordings of the Beatles' career, Strawberry Fields Forever never appeared on Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, the album most closely associated with the band's creative explosion. Yet many fans and critics have long argued that no song better captures the artistic heights Lennon reached during that remarkable period. By the end of 1966, the Beatles had reached a breaking point. Years of relentless touring had become exhausting, with deafening crowds making it nearly impossible for the band to hear themselves perform. Rather than continue delivering increasingly chaotic concerts, they made the revolutionary decision to stop touring altogether and devote themselves entirely to the recording studio. For Lennon, that newfound freedom sparked something deeply personal. Instead of writing another straightforward pop song, he looked inward. His thoughts drifted back to Strawberry Field, the Salvation Army children's home near his Aunt Mimi's house in Liverpool, where he had often escaped as a child. Those memories became the foundation for what Lennon himself would later describe as one of the few songs that truly came from his own life. While Strawberry Fields Forever is often associated with the psychedelic movement of the late 1960s, its heart lies somewhere else entirely. Beneath the dreamlike imagery, tape effects, and surreal production is a remarkably intimate portrait of longing, loneliness, and uncertainty. It is less a psychedelic fantasy than a deeply human reflection on childhood, identity, and the struggle to understand one's place in the world. Years after the Beatles split in 1970, Lennon became famous for criticizing much of his own work with the band. He rarely looked back with nostalgia and often dismissed songs that millions of fans adored. Yet, Strawberry Fields Forever remained one of the rare exceptions. Reflecting on the song, Lennon called it one of the few true songs I ever wrote. Alongside Help, he explained that these were the ones I really wrote from experience and not projecting myself into a situation and writing a nice story about it. That honesty is precisely what separated Strawberry Fields Forever from so much of Lennon's earlier songwriting. Rather than inventing fictional characters or romantic narratives, he confronted his own emotions. Every verse feels rooted in genuine experience, giving the song an emotional depth that continues to resonate decades later. One lyric in particular reveals Lennon's state of mind. He later explained its meaning with remarkable candor. What I was trying to say is, nobody seems to be as hip as me, therefore I must be crazy or a genius. What I'm saying, in my insecure way, is nobody seems to understand where I'm coming from. I seem to see things in a different way from most people. Far from being a cryptic psychedelic phrase, it was a confession of isolation. At the height of Beatlemania, Lennon found himself feeling increasingly disconnected from the world around him. The song became a way of expressing emotions he struggled to articulate in everyday life. The music itself pushed just as many boundaries as the lyrics. Producer George Martin faced one of the greatest technical challenges of his career after Lennon wanted two completely different takes combined into a single performance, even though they had been recorded in different keys and tempos. Rather than choosing one version, Martin and engineer Geoff Emerick accomplished what many believed impossible, subtly altering the speed of both recordings until they fit together seamlessly. The result sounded unlike anything popular music had heard before. Mellotron, reversed sounds, orchestral textures, and innovative tape manipulation blended into a dream-like soundscape that perfectly mirrored Lennon's fragmented memories. It was not simply another Beatles recording. It became one of the defining studio achievements of the 20th century. Lennon wasn't the only Beatle revisiting childhood during those sessions. Paul McCartney was inspired by his own memories of Liverpool, writing Penny Lane as an affectionate celebration of familiar streets and everyday life. The two songs became companion pieces, one optimistic and brightly nostalgic, the other introspective and psychologically complex. Lennon later recalled, "We were trying to write about Liverpool. I have visions of strawberry fields, and there was Penny Lane and the cast iron shore." Originally intended for Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, both songs were ultimately released together as a double A-side single after pressure from the band's record company to issue new material. Following the Beatles' long-standing policy, neither song was included on the album itself. Although the single became one of the most celebrated releases in rock history, it also marked the first Beatles single since 1933 to not reach #1 in the UK. Chart positions, however, tell only part of the story. More than half a century later, Strawberry Fields Forever is remembered not for where it landed on the charts, but for what it revealed about John Lennon. It captured him at his most fearless, his most imaginative, and perhaps his most honest. By turning childhood memories, emotional uncertainty, and groundbreaking musical ideas into a single recording, Lennon created far more than a hit song. He created the clearest proof that he had reached the peak of his songwriting powers.